No husband yet? My ex mocked me. He didn't know I married the Korean mafia boss in secret. Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Now, let's jump right back in. The cold clink of glass against the polished countertop echoed in Diana's mind, a sharp, unwelcome sound that sliced through the expensive murmur of the high-end gallery. It was the sound of a world she had once desperately tried to fit into, and one she now recognized as entirely artificial. Diana was technically present, her body a stunning silhouette in a simple, perfectly cut black dress that defied the couture excess surrounding her. But her spirit was miles away, performing a comprehensive review of the event's poor ventilation and the overly generous pours of cheap champagne disguised as vintage brut. Then she felt something. This tension, she knew, was purely external. It stemmed from the familiar, uncomfortable weight of being one of the few black faces in a sea of predominantly white, old money. The feeling was only intensified by the presence of the man she had hoped never to breathe the same recycled air as again. Across the room, near the velvet ropes guarding an aggressively modern sculpture that looked suspiciously like a crumpled soda can spray-painted gold, stood Trevor. Her ex-fiancé was flashing that smug, proprietary grin as he surveyed the crowd like a monarch overseeing his slightly bored domain. This evening had been Maya's fault, entirely and unequivocally. "You need to get out," Diana, her best friend, had insisted over the phone, the urgency in her voice bordering on a demand. "You're too accomplished to hide in that gorgeous penthouse. You're a queen, and queens need a public stage. Besides, it's a charity auction. Think of the good PR for the future of the perfume brand." Diana knew Maya meant well, but the thought of navigating this social minefield was exhausting. The irony was profound. Diana felt more at peace in the quiet anonymity of her massive apartment than in these gilded social cages. The sheer volume of diamonds, the forced polite laughter that never reached the eyes, and the overwhelming scent of ambition always felt suffocating. Tonight, Trevor was the poisonous cherry on top of the oppressive cake, the perfect symbol of everything she had worked to escape. It had been years since he had discarded her, years since he had uttered the single cutting verdict that still echoed in her quiet moments. She was too ordinary for the grand, ambitious, high-society life he convinced himself he deserved. The rejection had been cloaked in terms of race and class, a cruel dissection of her potential that had left her devastated. A lifetime since she had swallowed her pride, packed her belongings into boxes, and walked away from their shared apartment while he watched, arms crossed, offering not a single word of regret or help. That history was heavy, but as the scent of his familiar, nauseatingly expensive cologne, Tom Ford for Men, hit her, wafted across the room by a passing waiter, the old wound gave a vicious, unanticipated throb. It was a reminder of the weakness she used to have, the version of Diana who believed his dismissive lies. He finally caught her eye. Recognition flared, replaced instantly by the condescending look she knew so well. It was the look of a man who checks inventory, surprised to find a forgotten item still on the shelf. He began to weave his way through the guests, his movements confident, almost performative, and his eyes full of that superior judgment that always made her skin crawl. He made a production of the greeting, ensuring his small circle of friends, a group of identically tailored men and severe-looking women, were close enough to witness the impending humiliation. His goal, as always, was to reinforce his own perceived status by publicly diminishing hers. "Diana James," he drawled, the sound of her name on his lips feeling like an insult. His voice carried just enough to ensure his entourage heard the judgment beneath the greeting. He eyed her stunning black dress with a deliberate, slow pause, calculating its cost, and concluding it was not expensive enough to warrant respect. His lips curled into a familiar sneer. Still shopping at department stores, I see, Trevor continued, circling her like a shark sensing blood. Some things never change. You always did have such common taste. Though I suppose that's fitting, isn't it? Common taste for a common girl. The snickers from his circle were immediate, thin and brittle sounds of polite mockery. Tell me, Diana, what are you even doing here? This is a charity for the arts, not a discount outlet. He gestured broadly at the glittering room. Did you sneak in through the service entrance? I'm sure the caterers could use extra help if you're looking for work. You always were better suited for serving than being served. Diana's jaw tightened, but she refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing her flinch. She had survived worse than his petty cruelty. She had rebuilt herself from nothing. Trevor leaned in closer, his breath warm and unpleasant against her ear. You know, I did you a favor when I left you. You were dragging me down. A man of my status needs a woman who can actually elevate him, not some ordinary girl playing dress-up in borrowed clothes. I needed someone with breeding, with class, not someone who grew up in whatever neighborhood you came from. He pulled back, enjoying the way his words seemed to land. His friends were watching eagerly, their champagne flutes raised in silent toast to his cruelty. Let me guess, Trevor continued, his voice rising so more people could hear. No husband yet? Still waiting on that Prince Charming, I see. Or perhaps the royalty simply isn't applying for the position. He laughed at his own joke, a harsh barking sound that made Diana's skin crawl. But honestly, Diana, who would want you? You have nothing to offer, no family connections, no real money, just that pathetic little dream of yours about making perfume in your kitchen. He made an exaggerated sniffing gesture. How's that going, by the way? Still mixing oils in your sad little apartment? Still pretending you're going to be some kind of success story? The silence around them was growing. More people were turning to watch, drawn by the spectacle of public humiliation like moths to a flame. Trevor circled her slowly, his eyes raking over her form with deliberate disdain. You know what your problem is, Diana? You actually believed you could be something. You believed all that nonsense about hard work and talent mattering, but the truth is, people like you don't belong in rooms like this. You never did. You never will. He stopped directly in front of her, close enough that she could smell the whiskey on his breath beneath the cologne. I tried to help you see that, but you were too stubborn to listen, too proud. And look where that pride got you. He gestured at her dress, her simple jewelry, her understated elegance. Alone, unsuccessful, pretending to be something you're not at a party where nobody knows your name and nobody cares. One of his friends, a thin woman with a pinched face and diamonds dripping from her ears, tittered. Trevor, darling, you're being too harsh. I'm sure she's doing her best. Some people just aren't meant for more. Exactly my point, Clarissa. Trevor nodded sagely. Some people are meant to serve, and some are meant to lead. Diana here never could understand which category she belonged to. He turned back to Diana, his eyes gleaming with malicious satisfaction. Do you know what I told my friends after we broke up? I told them I had finally cut loose the dead weight. That I had been dating so far beneath my station it was embarrassing. They all agreed. Everyone could see it, except you. The words hit their mark, each one a carefully aimed arrow. Diana felt the familiar sting of humiliation, the ghost of the woman she used to be rising up to choke her. But she pushed it down. She was not that woman anymore. I'm married, she stated simply. The two words dropped into the tense space between them like stones hitting a silent pond, creating a ripple of confusion in Trevor's expression. She did not elaborate, did not offer a name or a ring flash. She let the stark fact hang in the air. Trevor's disbelief was immediate. His scoff was louder than the hum of the room, sharp and dismissive, instantly drawing the attention of several nearby clusters of guests. He actually threw his head back and laughed, a short barking sound. What are you talking about? Married? To who? He looked her up and down, his mockery now flagrant and uncontrolled. You must be lying, Diana. Who would you even be married to, honestly? Some desperate man with a starter condo and a used car? Some fool who couldn't see through your act? He turned to his friends, spreading his arms wide. Did you hear that? Diana James claims she's married. This is rich. Absolutely rich. Clarissa gasped in mock surprise. Perhaps she's confused, Trevor. Perhaps she means she's married to her work, or to her delusions. The laughter that followed was cruel and cutting. Trevor stepped closer to Diana, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper. I checked the social register, you know. There are no new marriages listed under James. You're desperate and pathetic, making up stories to save face. Just admit it, Diana. You're exactly where I said you would be. Alone, worthless, nothing. He straightened up and addressed his circle loudly. This is what happens when you let people above their station, friends. They start believing their own lies. They start thinking they can reinvent themselves with a few words and a cheap dress. A flash of doubt tried to cross Diana's mind. What if he insisted on proof? What if he really pushed, forcing her to reveal the truth of her arrangement in this awful place? But before uncertainty could take root, before she had to formulate a defense, the world provided the answer. The heavy double doors of the gallery opened with a soft but absolute finality, and the very atmosphere shifted, instantly and violently. It was not just an entrance. It was an arrival of such magnitude that it felt like a silent, physical force had entered the room. The music seemed to drop a full 10 decibels, and the low ambient noise of the event simply vanished, replaced by an acute, palpable silence that felt like a vacuum had been pulled over the entire space. Even the waiters froze mid-pour. Dodoha entered the room. The air grew immediately heavier, charged with an invisible pressure that demanded respect and absolute space. It was the sudden, tangible awareness of raw, unspoken power. As his commanding eyes scanned the room, his presence sent a ripple of instinctive, immediate unease through the gathering. Everyone knew him, or knew of him. This was Doha, the unapproachable, dangerous figure whose name commanded silent power in global business and, unknown to them, much more. He wore a midnight blue suit that somehow looked more formal, more ruthless than everyone else's black tuxedos. His posture was that of a predator who has already mapped every exit and weak point. His eyes, moving like lasers, found Diana. And then something unexpected happened. His entire expression transformed. The cold mask melted away, replaced by warmth that Diana had never seen directed at her in public. The corner of his lips curled into a smile that was tender and possessive all at once. A look that made her heart stutter in her chest. He moved through the stunned onlookers, his calm, unhurried pace radiating authority. But his eyes never left her face, and the warmth in them never wavered. When he stopped directly beside her, his tailored shoulder brushing hers in a silent claim, he did something that shocked her completely. He reached for her hand and lifted it to his lips, pressing a gentle, lingering kiss to her knuckles. The gesture was intimate, reverent, the kind of greeting a man gives to the woman he treasures above all others. I apologize for being late, my love, he said, his voice deep and warm. Loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, his Korean accent wrapped around the endearment like silk. Traffic was unavoidable. I hope you haven't been too bored without me. Diana's breath caught. This was not the cold, distant businessman she had known for the past 6 months. This was someone else entirely. The crowd had gone completely silent. Trevor's jaw had dropped open, his smugness evaporating like morning dew under a harsh sun. Doha's gaze finally shifted to Trevor, and the warmth vanished instantly, replaced by something cold and lethal. His arm slid around Diana's waist, pulling her close against his side in a gesture of unmistakable possession and protection. Is everything all right, Diana? He asked, his voice now weighted with dangerous authority. The question was directed at her, his focus entirely on her comfort, yet it was clearly aimed as a warning to the man who had dared to challenge his wife. Trevor's eyes were wide and glazed, his usual smugness failing entirely. He looked from Diana to Doha and back, his carefully constructed confidence decimated by the sheer, undeniable reality of Doha's proximity. "Diana," Trevor stammered, his voice thin and panicked. "What's going on? Who is this?" Doha stepped forward slightly, positioning himself protectively in front of Diana. His voice dropped to a low, dangerous register that somehow carried across the silent room. "I heard everything you said to my wife, every pathetic, cruel word." His eyes were ice, but his voice was terrifyingly calm. "You called her ordinary, you mocked her dreams, you questioned her worth. You suggested she does not belong in rooms like this." Trevor took an involuntary step backward, nearly stumbling into Clarissa. "Let me tell you something about my wife," Doha continued, his accent thickening slightly with controlled anger. "She is the most extraordinary woman I have ever met. Her intelligence outshines everyone in this room, including myself. Her grace under pressure is remarkable. Her strength is inspiring. Her beauty takes my breath away every single day." Diana felt warmth bloom in her chest. She had never heard Doha speak about her this way. Doha took another step toward Trevor, who stumbled backward into one of his friends, champagne sloshing from his glass onto his expensive shoes. "You discarded her because you were too small, too insignificant, too blind to appreciate what you had. You looked at a diamond and saw a pebble because you lacked the intelligence to recognize true value." Doha's smile was sharp as a blade. "And now you stand here, in your off-the-rack tuxedo pretending to be custom, mocking her in front of people who will forget your name by morning." The color had drained from Trevor's face entirely. His entourage had scattered slightly, suddenly eager to distance themselves from the target of Doha's wrath. "I didn't know," Trevor stammered. "I didn't mean, look, I didn't know she was—" "You didn't know she was protected?" Doha's voice was soft, almost gentle, and somehow that made it more terrifying. "You didn't know that the woman you called worthless is now Mrs. Doe, that she has access to resources that could buy and sell your entire family's holdings 100 times over without me noticing the expense?" He leaned in close to Trevor's ear, and though Diana could not hear what he whispered, she saw Trevor's face transform from pale to ashen gray. Whatever Doha said made Trevor's hands begin to shake visibly. When Doha pulled back, Trevor looked like he might be sick on his expensive shoes. "You will leave this event immediately," Doha announced, his voice carrying absolute authority that brooked no argument. "You will not speak to anyone on your way out. You will not look back, and if I ever hear that you have spoken to, looked at, or even thought about my wife again, I will ensure that every business opportunity, every social connection, every door in this city and every city beyond closes permanently in your face." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "I will dismantle your reputation piece by piece. I will buy every company that might employ you and instruct them to reject your applications. I will ensure that every club, every restaurant, every exclusive venue in the world knows your name and knows to turn you away. You will become a ghost, Trevor, a nobody, the very thing you accused my wife of being. Do you understand?" Trevor nodded frantically, unable to form words. "I didn't hear you." "Yes," Trevor croaked. "Yes, I understand. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Don't apologize to me." Doha's voice was ice. "Apologize to my wife." Trevor's eyes darted to Diana, wide with fear and desperate humiliation. "Diana, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean any of it. Please, I was being stupid. Please forgive me." Diana looked at the man who had once made her feel worthless. The man who had broken her heart and left her to rebuild herself from nothing. He was shaking, sweating, his expensive cologne now mixing with the sharp scent of fear. "Goodbye, Trevor," she said simply. Doha turned his back on Trevor dismissively, effectively erasing him from existence. He returned to Diana's side and wrapped his arm around her waist once more, pulling her close with a gentleness that contradicted the fury he had just displayed. "Shall we get some air, my love?" he asked, his voice warm again, tender, as if nothing had happened. His thumb traced soft circles on her hip through the fabric of her dress. Diana could only nod, her heart racing for entirely different reasons now. As they walked toward the terrace, Diana glanced back to see Trevor practically running toward the exit, his entourage scattered and confused, their cruel laughter replaced by shocked whispers. The humiliation was total, and it was beautiful. On the terrace, away from the curious eyes of the guests, Diana finally exhaled. The night air was cool against her flushed skin, and the city sprawled beneath them in a glittering tapestry of lights. That was... She could not find the words. Doha turned to face her, and his expression was softer than she had ever seen it. Gone was the cold businessman. Gone was the terrifying presence that had just destroyed Trevor. In his place was simply a man looking at her with something that made her chest ache. "That was long overdue," he said quietly. "I have wanted to do that since you first told me about him." Diana blinked. "You remembered what I told you about Trevor?" "I remember everything you tell me, Diana." He reached up and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingertips lingering on her cheek. "Every dream you have shared, every fear, every small detail about your life. I remember the way you take your coffee and the way you hum when you are working on a new fragrance. I remember that you hate the sound of rain on windows but love the smell of it on concrete. I remember everything." Her breath caught. This was not the cold, distant businessman she had signed a contract with 6 months ago. This was someone she had never met. "Doha, why did I defend you like that?" He smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes and transformed his entire face. "Because you are my wife. Contract or not, that means something to me, and no one, absolutely no one, is allowed to hurt you while I am breathing." Diana felt tears prick at her eyes. "The contract says we are supposed to maintain professional distance." "The contract," Doha said slowly, stepping closer until barely an inch separated them, "can be revised. In fact, I have been wanting to revise it for quite some time." Before she could respond, he cupped her face gently in his hands, his thumbs brushing away the tears that had escaped. His touch was warm, tender, reverent. "Diana," he murmured, his voice low and sincere, "I need you to know that I am not good at this. I have spent my entire life building walls, keeping people at a distance, maintaining control. But with you, I find those walls crumbling. Every day, I think about you. I worry about whether you are eating enough, sleeping enough. I find excuses to see you, to hear your voice. I have memorized your schedule just so I know when you might be in the shared spaces of our home." Diana's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. "I should have told you sooner," he continued, his forehead dropping to rest against hers. "I should have told you that this contract stopped being about business for me months ago. But I was afraid. Afraid that you would reject me. Afraid that I would ruin the peace you had found. Doha, I am in love with you, Diana." The words came out on a breath, as if he had been holding them for too long. "I have been falling for you since the moment you walked into that lawyer's office with your head held high, refusing to let your circumstances break you. I watched you rebuild yourself from nothing. I watched you pour your heart into your work. I watched you laugh at my terrible jokes and pretend you did not notice when I found excuses to be near you. And every day, I fell deeper." Diana reached up and placed her hands over his, holding him close. "I was so afraid," she whispered. "I thought you saw me as just a business arrangement, a convenient solution to your problem. I thought your coldness meant you wanted distance." "My coldness was fear," he admitted. "I have never felt this way about anyone. I did not know how to show you without risking everything we had built. But tonight, watching that worthless man hurt you, I realized I would rather risk your rejection than spend another moment pretending I do not love you with everything I am." Diana laughed softly, tears streaming freely now. "You are not very good at pretending, you know. The flowers, the tea, the way you always appeared in the kitchen exactly when I was eating. I noticed." Doha pulled back slightly, a sheepish expression crossing his features. "I thought I was being subtle." "You were not," she smiled through her tears. "But I loved it. I loved every clumsy attempt at being near me. I just did not dare hope it meant what I wanted it to mean." "What did you want it to mean?" "That you felt the same way I do." She took a shaky breath. "That you were falling for me too." Doha's eyes searched hers, filled with hope and vulnerability that she had never seen in him before. "And are you? Falling for me?" "I fell a long time ago," Diana admitted. "I just did not know how to land." The smile that broke across his face was radiant, transforming him completely. He looked younger, lighter, as if a weight he had carried for years had suddenly lifted. "Then let me catch you," he whispered. He closed the distance between them and pressed his lips to hers. The kiss was gentle at first, questioning, giving her every opportunity to pull away. When she responded, wrapping her arms around his neck and pulling him closer, it deepened into something more. He kissed her like she was precious, like she was everything, like he had been waiting his entire life for this moment and could not quite believe it was real. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Doha pressed his forehead to hers once more. "I should have done that months ago," he murmured against her lips. Diana laughed, a breathless, joyful sound. "Yes, you should have." He kissed her again, softer this time, a promise of more to come. His hand slid from her face to her waist, pulling her flesh against him, as if he could not bear any distance between them. "We should probably go back inside," Diana whispered when they finally parted. "People will talk." "Let them talk." Doha's eyes were dark with emotion. "Let them see that Doha has fallen completely, irrevocably in love with his wife. Let them write about it in their gossip columns. I do not care." "Doha, I have spent my entire life caring about appearances, about control, about maintaining the perfect image." He traced her jawline with his thumb. "But you have taught me that some things are worth more than image. You are worth more than anything I have ever protected." Diana felt her heart overflow. This man, this cold, untouchable man, was looking at her like she hung the moon. "Let's go home," she said softly. Doha's answering smile was brighter than all the city lights combined. "Home, yes, let's go home." He took her hand, lacing their fingers together, and led her back through the gallery. They did not try to hide their joined hands or the way they leaned into each other. Let the guests whisper. Let them stare. Diana walked through that room with her head held high, her husband at her side, and she had never felt more powerful. In the car, Doha kept her hand in his thumb tracing constant patterns on her skin. The city blurred past the windows, but Diana barely noticed. She was too focused on the man beside her, the warmth of his touch, the way he kept glancing at her as if making sure she was still there. "Tell me about the past 6 months," she said quietly. "Tell me what you were really thinking." Doha was silent for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "The first month, I told myself it was purely business. You were fulfilling a role, and I was providing protection. Simple, clean, unemotional." He shook his head. "But then I started noticing things. The way you hummed while you worked, the determination in your eyes when you talked about your perfume company, the way you refused to let your circumstances define you." He lifted her hand and pressed a kiss to her palm. "By the second month, I was finding excuses to be in the shared spaces when you were there. I started asking my staff about your schedule, about your preferences. I had flowers delivered to your wing and pretended I did not know who sent them. Diana laughed softly. I wondered about those flowers. The third month, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about you, just a few rooms away. I wanted to knock on your door and talk to you, but I did not know what I would say. So I started appearing in the kitchen at night, hoping you would be there. You were always getting water, Diana remembered. I thought you were just very hydrated. Doha chuckled, the sound warm and genuine. I do not even like water that late at night. It makes me wake up constantly, but it was worth it to see you. And the fourth month? The fourth month you had that anxiety attack over the bass note for your signature scent. Do you remember? Diana nodded. She had been working for days, unable to find the right combination, and the frustration had overwhelmed her. I found you in your laboratory, crying, Doha continued, his voice soft. And something in me broke. I could not stand to see you in pain. I held your hand and talked you through it, and when you finally found the right note, the joy on your face. He trailed off, swallowing hard. That was when I knew I was in love with you. That was when I knew I was completely lost. Diana leaned her head against his shoulder. I thought you were just being kind, fulfilling your contractual obligation to ensure my well-being. I was falling apart inside. He pressed a kiss to the top of her head. Every moment with you was torture and bliss combined. I wanted to tell you so badly, but I was terrified of ruining everything. And the 5th and 6th months? Agony, he admitted. Pure agony. Watching you every day, loving you more with each passing moment, convinced you could never feel the same way. Telling myself that when the contract ended, I would let you go, even though the thought of it felt like dying. Diana looked up at him, her eyes shining. You are an idiot. Doha laughed, surprised. I beg your pardon? A beautiful, wonderful, completely oblivious idiot. She reached up and cupped his face. I have been in love with you for months, Doha. I thought you were cold because you did not want anything beyond the contract. I thought I was just a convenience to you. Never. His voice was fierce. Never a convenience. You are the best thing that has ever happened to me. He kissed her again, deep and passionate, and Diana melted into him completely. When they arrived at the penthouse, Doha walked her to what used to be the door of her separate wing. But instead of leaving her there, he hesitated. Diana, he said, his voice uncertain in a way she had never heard before. I know we said we would take this slowly, and I meant that, whatever pace you are comfortable with. But I need to ask, would you consider? Yes, she said before he could finish. He blinked. You do not even know what I was going to ask. I do not care. She smiled up at him. Whatever it is, the answer is yes. Doha's face broke into that radiant smile again. I was going to ask if you would consider sharing the master suite with me, not for anything more than sleeping, not until you are ready. I just want to fall asleep with you beside me. I want to wake up and see your face. I want to stop pretending we are strangers living parallel lives under the same roof. Diana answered by standing on her toes and kissing him softly. Show me our bedroom, she whispered against his lips. That night, they lay together in the massive bed of the master suite, Diana curled against Doha's chest while he traced patterns on her back. They talked for hours, sharing secrets and fears and dreams, making up for months of enforced distance. Tell me about your childhood, Diana murmured sleepily. It was structured, Doha said. My father was strict, my mother was demanding, but they loved me. They just did not know how to show it in soft ways. And your grandfather, the lazy one who named you? Doha laughed, the sound rumbling in his chest beneath her ear. He is a character, grumpy, blunt, completely without filter. But he adores me in his own way. He used to sneak me extra desserts when my mother was not looking. and tell me that life was too short for unnecessary complications. He sounds wonderful. He will love you. Doha pressed a kiss to her hair. They all will. My mother has been asking about you for months. She keeps demanding to know when she can meet my wife properly. Diana felt a flutter of nervousness. What have you told them about me? Everything. His arms tightened around her. That you are brilliant and beautiful and strong. That you are building an empire from nothing. That you make me want to be a better man. Doha, sleep now, my love. He kissed her forehead. We have the rest of our lives to talk. Diana smiled, nestling closer. For the first time in years, she felt completely safe, completely loved, completely home. As she drifted off to sleep in her husband's arms, she thought about how far she had come. From the depths of despair after Trevor, through a contract marriage she never expected to survive, to this moment of perfect peace. The contract had brought them together, but love would keep them there. The week following the gallery incident was a revelation for Diana. The cold, distant Doha she had known during the first months of their marriage had vanished completely, replaced by a man who seemed determined to make up for lost time. He brought her coffee every morning, prepared exactly the way she liked it, with a splash of oat milk and a single sugar cube. He would appear in her laboratory just to check on progress, but would end up staying for hours, asking questions about her work with genuine interest. At night, they would sit together in the shared living room, sometimes talking, sometimes simply enjoying comfortable silence while the city glittered beneath their windows. And the kisses. There were so many kisses now, quick ones pressed to her temple when he passed her in the hallway, lingering ones stolen in the kitchen when she was supposed to be working. Deep, passionate ones that left her breathless and wanting more, pressed against the wall of his study when a business call ended early. Diana found herself falling and falling hard. One morning, she woke to find Doha already awake, propped up on one elbow, watching her with an expression of such tenderness that it made her chest ache. "What are you doing?" she murmured, still half asleep. "Memorizing you," he said simply. "I want to remember exactly how you look in the morning light. I want to remember everything." She reached up and traced the line of his jaw. "You are impossibly romantic for a man who runs a business empire. Only for you." He turned his head and pressed a kiss to her palm. "Only ever for you." They had breakfast together on the balcony, watching the sun rise over the city. Doha had ordered her favorite pastries from a bakery across town, and Diana marveled at how he remembered such small details. "I have to tell you something," Doha said, setting down his coffee cup. His expression had shifted to something more serious. Diana felt a flutter of anxiety. "What is it?" "My parents would like to host us for dinner next week." He slid a formal invitation across the table toward her. "They have been asking to meet you properly for months. And I have run out of excuses." Diana's stomach instantly tied itself into a knot. "Your parents? As in, the people who raised the man who once held my hand through an anxiety attack because I could not find the right bass note for my signature scent?" Doha chuckled, the sound warm and genuine. "The very same. Though I should warn you, they are significantly more chaotic than I am." "More chaotic than a man who literally runs an empire from his phone while making me breakfast?" "Much more." His eyes sparkled with amusement. "My mother is passionate, my father is protective, and my grandfather is, well, my grandfather gave me my name because he was too lazy to think of a better one." Diana laughed, remembering the story from their first night together. "I still cannot believe that. The terrifying Doha named by a hungry, impatient grandfather." "He has no shame about it either." Doha shook his head, smiling. "He tells the story at every family gathering, usually while demanding more food." "I think I'm going to like him. He will adore you." Doha reached across the table and took her hand. "They all will. But Diana, I need you to understand something. My family is intense. They express love through criticism and concern through interrogation. My mother will probably ask you inappropriate questions about our relationship. My father will hover protectively. And my grandfather will comment on everything from your dress to your eating habits. You are not making me feel better. I am preparing you. He lifted her hand and kissed her knuckles. But no matter what happens, I will be right beside you. And if anyone makes you uncomfortable, we leave immediately. Your well-being comes first, always. Diana squeezed his hand. I survived Trevor and his horrible friends. I can survive your family. That is the spirit. The week passed too quickly, and before Diana knew it, she was sitting in the back of Doha's car, dressed in an elegant silk-sheath dress in deep burgundy, her nerves wound tight as piano strings. Doha had assured her the color would please his mother, who apparently had very specific opinions about what constituted proper guest attire. Tell me about them, Diana said, desperate for any information that might help her navigate the evening ahead. What should I expect? Doha considered the question. My mother, Minju, is the true power in our family. She is brilliant, sharp, and completely without filter. She will judge you within the first 30 seconds. And she will let you know her verdict immediately. Do not take it personally. She judges everyone. Wonderful. My father, So-yoon, is quieter. He lets my mother do most of the talking, but he sees everything. He will watch how I treat you, how you treat me, and he will form his own conclusions. If he approves of you, he will become fiercely protective. If he does not, he will make it very clear. And your grandfather? Doha smiled fondly. Haraboeji is a law unto himself. He is old, grumpy, and says whatever comes into his head. He will probably insult you at least once, but it will be a sign of affection. He only ignores people he does not like. So if he insults me, that is good? Exactly. Doha took her hand. Diana, I know this is overwhelming, but I promise you, beneath all the chaos and the bluntness, my family loves deeply. They have been asking about you for months. They want to welcome you. Because I am your wife? Because you make me happy. He lifted her hand and pressed a kiss to her palm. They have noticed the change in me. My mother called last week and demanded to know what miracle had occurred to make her stone-faced son actually smile during a phone call. Diana felt warmth bloom in her chest. What did you tell her? The truth. That I had fallen in love with my wife, and that she had transformed my life. His eyes held hers. They already love you, Diana. They just do not know you yet. The car pulled up to the family compound, and Diana's breath caught. It was a stunning traditional home nestled in a deceptively normal suburban area, all elegant lines and meticulously manicured grounds. The traditional tile roof gleamed in the evening light, and the gardens were immaculate. It is beautiful, she whispered. It has been in my family for generations. Doha helped her out of the car. My grandfather was born here. So was my father. So was I. Before they reached the door, Doha stopped and turned to her. He cupped her face in his hands and looked at her with an intensity that made her knees weak. Whatever happens in there, remember this. You are extraordinary. You are accomplished. You are beautiful. And you are mine. He kissed her softly. I am so proud to call you my wife. Diana melted into him for a moment, drawing strength from his warmth. I love you, she whispered against his lips. I love you too. He kissed her once more, then took her hand firmly in his. Now let us face the chaos together. The door swung open before they reached it, and Diana was greeted by 3 faces beaming with a chaotic mix of anticipation and overbearing pride. Doha's mother, Minju, was elegant and sharp, wearing a stunning modern hanbok dress in shades of rose and gold. She examined Diana with the rapid speed of an international customs agent searching for contraband, her eyes taking in every detail from her hair to her shoes to the way she held Doha's hand. "She is tall," Minju announced in Korean, which Diana understood thanks to months of secret language lessons she had been taking. "Very tall, will cause problems with the photography, but good for visibility." Then she switched to flawless, heavily emphasized English for Diana's benefit. "Welcome, Diana. You are much better than the last one, who only talked about her tiny little fluffy white dogs. That girl was bland like unseasoned tofu." She pulled Diana into a hug that felt both warm and slightly strategic, like she was checking for weaknesses in her posture. She stepped back, holding Diana at arm's length, eyes wide and appraising. "You are African American? Good. You have good bones, strong cheekbones. My son needs good, strong bones in his children, not the weak, floppy bones of a dog lover." "Mother," Doha warned, but there was affection in his voice. "What? I am being welcoming." Minju waved a dismissive hand at her son. "Do not mother me. I am simply observing facts. She has excellent posture. Did you notice her posture, Doha? Straight as a board. This is a woman who knows how to carry herself." Before Diana could process any of this, she was introduced to Doha's father, Seo Yoon. He was a towering figure who carried the same quiet authority as Doha, but his face was surprisingly warm, crinkling around the eyes as he smiled. "Welcome, my daughter," he said in heavily accented English, his voice a low rumble. He gave her shoulder a supportive squeeze that felt genuine and reassuring. "My son has told us much about you. All of it good. We are honored to have you in our family." Then came the grand finale, the lazy, grumpy grandfather, Haraboiji. He was tiny, magnificently grumpy, and sitting in a large armchair next to a low table piled high with snack wrappers and a bowl of sticky rice cakes. He looked up at Diana with narrowed eyes, examining her with the critical gaze of someone who had seen everything and was impressed by nothing. "The burgundy dress is acceptable," Haraboiji grumbled, waving a hand dismissively while simultaneously trying to dislodge a piece of dried squid from his teeth. "But she should eat more kimchi, too skinny. All the women today are too skinny, like sticks. You need meat on your bones for the cold, or you will blow away." He paused, squinting at her more closely. "She has good eyes, though, like a hawk. She sees through things." He jabbed a finger at Doha. "She sees through this one, I think. That is good. He needs someone who can see through his nonsense." Diana immediately relaxed. The suffocating formality she had prepared for was being obliterated by a tidal wave of chaotic, blunt love and unsolicited nutritional advice. This was not a trial. This was a deeply confusing, highly aggressive welcome. Doha's hand found the small of her back, a steadying presence. He was watching her with barely concealed anxiety, clearly terrified that his family would scare her away. She turned and smiled at him, squeezing his arm reassuringly. "I love them already," she whispered. The relief on his face was palpable. Dinner was a hilarious catastrophe of good food and inappropriate commentary. The table was laden with dishes Diana had never seen before, each one more fragrant and beautiful than the last. Minju was constantly trying to feed her enormous servings of rice and meat, while simultaneously cross-examining her about her perfume company. "So you make smells? Do the smells make money?" Minju leaned forward, genuinely interested. "My son has much money. You do not need money. This is a very stressful business, my dear. You should relax and shop instead." "Mother, Diana's company is her own achievement," Doha interjected, placing his hand over Diana's on the table. "She has built it from nothing. It will be extraordinarily successful. I have complete faith in her." "I am not saying she cannot be successful," Minju protested. "I am saying success is stressful. She should have options. What if the smells do not sell? What if people do not want to smell good anymore? These things happen." "The perfume industry is stable, Mother." "Nothing is stable. The world is chaos. Minju threw her hands up dramatically. But fine, fine. She can make her smells. I support the smells. I will buy all the smells myself if necessary. Seo Yoon, who had been quietly eating, looked up and caught Diana's eye. He gave her a small, conspiratorial smile that seemed to say, "This is normal. You are doing fine." Throughout the meal, Doha remained attentive to Diana, refilling her water, ensuring she had the best pieces of meat, defending her against his mother's more invasive questions. When Minju suggested Diana should give up her company to focus on producing heirs, Doha's response was immediate and firm. "Diana's career is her own," he said, his voice brooking no argument. "Her success is a source of pride for our family. I support her completely, and I expect everyone at this table to do the same." Under the table, his hand found hers and squeezed. Minju's eyes narrowed at their joined hands, and a delighted smile spread across her face. "Ah, you are holding hands. This is good. My son, he finally has feelings. I was beginning to think he was made of stone." "Mother. Do not mother me. I have eyes. I can see." She clapped her hands together. "This is wonderful. Finally, my son acts like a human being instead of a business contract. I want grandchildren who can actually smile, not just stare intensely like he does all the time." Diana felt heat rise to her cheeks, but she was smiling. Haraboeji caught Diana's eye and winked conspiratorially. He quietly pushed a bowl of fire engine red kimchi toward her. "They think you only eat bland food," he whispered dramatically, pointing a shaky finger at Doha's parents. "Fools. Spicy food is for strong people. It burns the foolishness out of your system. Eat it, American girl. Prove yourself." Diana dug in, and the immediate, beautiful burn brought a genuine, delighted smile to her face. Haraboeji nodded approvingly, his grumpy expression softening ever so slightly. "See? Strong. Like my laziness. We are kindred spirits, you and I. We appreciate the easy solution and the fiery taste." The most awkward humor came from the constant, loud, and unsolicited advice regarding their relationship. Minju kept trying to offer Diana Korean language CDs, insisting she needed to sing lullabies in Korean to future children. Seo Yoon asked Doha every 5 minutes in rapid Korean if he was taking good care of his tall, beautiful wife and making sure she felt loved. At one point, Minju leaned across the table and addressed Diana directly. "You have changed my son," she said, her voice suddenly serious beneath the chaos. "Before you, he was cold, distant. He worked too much and smiled never. But now, look at him." She gestured at Doha, who was watching Diana with an expression of open adoration. "He looks at you like you are his whole world, like you are everything." Diana felt tears prick at her eyes. "He has changed me too," she said softly. "He makes me feel safe, valued, loved." Minju reached across and squeezed Diana's hand. "Take care of him. He does not know how to take care of his own heart. He needs someone to teach him." "I will," Diana promised. "I will take care of him." Doha, who had been pretending not to listen, met her eyes. The love in his gaze was overwhelming. When the evening finally wound down, Diana's cheeks hurt from smiling. As they prepared to leave, Minju cornered her near the entrance. "You are good for him," she said firmly. "I see it. I approve. Welcome to the family, Diana. Welcome to the chaos." She pulled Diana into another fierce hug. Haraboeji shuffled over and patted Diana's arm. "Come back soon. Bring more appetite. We will have spicy food together, and you will tell me about your smells. I am old and bored and need new things to talk about." Seo Yoon simply bowed his head respectfully and said, "You have my blessing, daughter. Take care of each other." In the car on the way home, Diana collapsed against Doha, emotionally exhausted but deeply happy. "Thank you for surviving that," he murmured, pressing a kiss to her hair. "I loved every minute of it," Diana admitted. "They are wonderful. Completely insane, but wonderful. Doha smiled, that rare, genuine smile that she treasured. They adore you, almost as much as I do. Diana tilted her head up to look at him. Almost? No one could ever love you as much as I do. He cupped her face and kissed her softly, tenderly. You were magnificent tonight. You handled everything with grace and humor and strength. I have never been prouder to call you my wife. Diana melted into him. I love you, Doha. I love you too, more than I knew was possible. They kissed again, deeper this time, and Diana felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The aftermath of the family dinner changed everything. The contract's clinical terms felt increasingly irrelevant. The separation between their wings, already porous, disappeared entirely. One evening, a few weeks after the dinner, Diana decided to surprise Doha by cooking a traditional Korean dish. She had researched for days, watched countless tutorials, and gathered all the ingredients for kimchi jjigae. She wanted to show him that she was embracing his culture, that she was committed to building a life together that honored both their backgrounds. The execution, however, was a disaster. At around 7 p.m., when Doha was locked in his office dealing with international matters, Diana began her culinary mission. She chopped the kimchi with surgical precision and sliced the tofu with architectural care. Everything seemed to be going well. Then the chaos began. The moment the kimchi hit the boiling broth, an aggressive scent of fermentation permeated the entire penthouse. The specialized ventilation system whirred to life with the sound of a small jet engine, utterly overwhelmed by the intensity of the aroma. Then the rice started burning. Diana had forgotten to stir it while focusing on the stew's seasoning, and now it was sticking irrevocably to the bottom of the expensive rice cooker, emitting a thin column of distressed smoke. "Oh, no, no, no," Diana muttered, grabbing a spatula and attacking the rice cooker while the stew bubbled ominously behind her. The smoke alarm began wailing like a distressed dolphin, a high-pitched electronic screech that filled the penthouse. The door to Doha's office burst open. He appeared in the doorway, phone pressed to his ear, his face a mask of furious concentration. He was speaking rapid Korean that was clearly laced with intense anger and threats. "Yes, tell them the contract is voided immediately," he snarled into the phone. "If the shipment is delayed again, they will be dealing with me directly, and that will be the last mistake they ever make." He strode into the kitchen, nostrils flaring at the wall of chili-infused air. He took in the scene. Diana wielding a spatula like a weapon, the protesting rice cooker, and the bubbling red stew that looked like volcanic sludge actively plotting an eruption. For a moment, he just stared. Then the most unexpected thing happened. He laughed. It was not a small laugh, not a polite chuckle. It was a full, genuine laugh that transformed his entire face, erasing years of stress and coldness. He doubled over, phone forgotten, shoulders shaking with mirth. "Diana," he gasped between laughs, "what have you done to my kitchen?" "I was trying to cook for you," she protested, though she was starting to smile despite herself. "Your mother said you needed more iron and less corporate robot sustenance." Doha finally managed to control his laughter enough to reach up and punch a tiny, well-hidden button on the ceiling, silencing the smoke alarm. The sudden quiet was so intense it felt physically heavy. He set his phone down and walked toward her, still chuckling. "You have nearly destroyed a $7,000 appliance," he observed, lifting the lid off the rice cooker and surveying the scorched bottom with exaggerated dismay. "And the stew looks like it is actively trying to escape the pot." "It is just missing its final touch," Diana insisted weakly. "Maybe more soy sauce?" Doha looked at her, looked at the chaos surrounding them, and his expression softened into something impossibly tender. "You did this for me," he said quietly. "It was not a question. I wanted to surprise you. I wanted to show you that I am trying to embrace your culture, your family, everything." She gestured helplessly at the disaster. I may have overestimated my cooking abilities. Doha crossed the kitchen and pulled her into his arms, heedless of the smoke and the smell and the general catastrophe. This is the most wonderful thing anyone has ever done for me, he murmured against her hair. I destroyed your rice cooker. It is just a rice cooker. He pulled back to look at her, his eyes shining. You tried. You put in effort and thought and care. That means more to me than any perfectly cooked meal. Diana felt tears prick at her eyes. You are not angry? Angry? He laughed again, softer this time. Diana, I am overwhelmed. I have spent my entire life surrounded by people who do things for me because they want something in return. You destroyed my kitchen because you wanted to make me happy. That is the opposite of anger. He kissed her then, deep and passionate, right there amid the smoke and the chaos. When they finally broke apart, Doha rolled up the sleeves of his expensive white shirt. Now, he said, his eyes twinkling, let me show you how it is actually done. To Diana's astonishment, Doha, the ruthless businessman, revealed a surprising talent for cooking. He moved with swift, efficient grace around the kitchen, salvaging what he could and starting fresh with practiced ease. He opened the fridge and pulled out fresh garlic, perfectly cubed pork belly, and a secret jar of intensely aged kimchi from a hidden spot. Family recipe, he explained at her questioning look. My mother makes it. Do not tell her I told you where I keep it. He quickly assessed the volcanic stew, added water, tasted it, frowned, and then added a dash of something dark and savory from a tiny, unmarked bottle, all while his phone kept ringing with desperate subordinates. No, I am not in the office, he snapped into the phone while stirring the stew. I am dealing with a small but highly flammable domestic situation that requires my full attention. He paused, listening. I do not care. Handle it yourself, I am busy. He hung up and turned back to the stove, adjusting the heat. You just told your business associate to handle something themselves, Diana said, amazed. I have never seen you do that. Some things are more important than business. He glanced at her over his shoulder, his smile warm. You, for instance. You are always more important. In 20 minutes, he had transformed the volcanic sludge into a thick, fragrant, perfect kimchi jjigae. He set the small kitchen table with 2 places, pouring the stew into simple earthenware bowls and serving fluffy white rice he had somehow salvaged from the disaster. They sat down to eat together, and Diana took a bite that made her eyes widen. This is incredible, she said. I had no idea you could cook. I pictured you ordering everything through some exclusive service. My mother insists on 3 things, Doha replied, savoring his own bite. Discipline, loyalty, and the ability to cook simple, soulful food. She believes ordering food shows weakness. She used to make me cook this every Sunday while I was reviewing my schoolwork. So you are a ruthless businessman, a secret chef, and a deeply traumatized child of a mother who insisted on home-cooked meals. Do not forget devastatingly handsome, Doha added, his eyes twinkling. Diana laughed, reaching across the table to take his hand. Your mother is right, you know. You do look thin. I think your constant state of suppressed fury and threats burns too many calories. Perhaps you can help me with that, by ceasing all attempts to burn down our kitchen. No promises. He lifted her hand and kissed her knuckles. I would not want you any other way. Later that night, they lay together on the sofa, Diana curled against Doha's side while he reviewed documents. The penthouse was quiet, the chaos of the kitchen cleaned and forgotten, and Diana felt a deep sense of peace. Doha? She murmured. I want to tell you something. He set his tablet aside immediately, giving her his full attention. What is it? Diana took a deep breath. When I first signed the contract, I thought this would be the worst 2 years of my life. I thought I was trading my freedom for security, and I resented every moment of it. Doha's expression flickered with something like pain. But now, Diana continued, reaching up to touch his face, I cannot imagine my life without you. You have become my home, Doha. My safe place. My everything. He caught her hand and pressed a kiss to her palm. Diana. I know the contract was supposed to be temporary. I know we said 2 years and then we would go our separate ways. But I do not want that anymore. I want forever. I want to wake up beside you every morning and fall asleep in your arms every night. I want to build a life with you, a real life, not just a business arrangement. Doha's eyes were shining with unshed tears. I have wanted to ask you for months, he admitted, his voice rough. But I was afraid. Afraid you would think I was trying to trap you, afraid you would feel obligated. I do not feel obligated. Diana smiled through her own tears. I feel loved. I feel cherished. I feel like I finally found where I belong. Doha pulled her close and kissed her deeply, pouring all his unspoken feelings into the contact. Then let us forget the contract, he whispered against her lips. Let us start fresh, not as business partners, not as a convenient arrangement, but as husband and wife, for real, forever. Forever, Diana agreed. They sealed the promise with another kiss, and Diana knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The following weeks were some of the happiest of Diana's life. She threw herself into her work with renewed energy, knowing that Doha supported her completely. Rebirth was thriving, and her signature scent, Ascension, was generating unprecedented buzz in the industry. Meanwhile, her relationship with Doha continued to deepen. They established new rituals, morning coffee on the balcony, evening walks through the city, late-night conversations about everything and nothing. But beneath the happiness, Diana sensed something shifting. She had been feeling strange lately, unusual fatigue, odd food cravings, a persistent aversion to certain scents that had never bothered her before. She dismissed it as stress from the upcoming launch. There was too much to do, too many details to manage. She did not have time to be sick. Then came the night that changed everything. It was the night of the soft launch for Ascension, a small, exclusive preview event for industry insiders and potential investors. Diana was radiant in a deep emerald gown, fielding congratulations and answering questions with practiced ease. Doha stood nearby, watching her with undisguised pride. He had been her rock throughout the planning process, offering support without trying to take over, believing in her vision even when she doubted herself. The evening was a triumph. By the time the last guest left, Diana had secured 3 major investment commitments and generated enough buzz to guarantee a successful official launch. You were magnificent, Doha said, pulling her into his arms as the staff cleared the venue. I have never seen anyone command a room the way you do. Diana smiled, but something felt off. The room seemed to spin slightly, and she gripped Doha's arm for support. Diana? Are you all right? I am fine, just tired. It has been a long night. But Doha was already studying her with that intense analytical gaze that missed nothing. His eyes moved over her face, noting the unusual paleness, the slight sheen of sweat on her forehead. Then his gaze dropped lower, and he went completely still. Diana, he said slowly, his voice strange. There is something different about you. What do you mean? He did not answer immediately. Instead, he reached out and placed his hand gently on her stomach, his touch feather-light through the silk of her gown. Here, he whispered. Something is different here. Diana felt her heart stop. She looked down at where his hand rested, then back up at his face. His expression was a mix of wonder and dawning realization. Diana, he said, his voice barely audible. Are you pregnant? The question hung in the air between them. Diana opened her mouth to deny it, to insist that was impossible, but the words would not come. Because suddenly, everything made sense. The fatigue, the food cravings, the sensitivity to certain scents, the way her favorite perfume had started making her nauseous. "I do not know," she admitted, her voice shaking. "I have not taken a test. I did not even consider it. But now that you mention it—" She trailed off, her mind racing. Doha's face had transformed. Gone was the cold businessman. Gone was even the warm husband she had come to know. In his place was something raw and vulnerable, a man confronting a possibility he had never dared to hope for. "We need to find out," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "Tonight. Right now." Diana nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. Doha took her hand and led her out of the venue with a determination that brooked no argument. Within minutes, they were in his car, speeding through the night toward the private medical facility at the Doe estate. The drive was silent, both of them lost in their own thoughts. Doha held her hand the entire time, his thumb tracing constant circles on her skin. When they arrived at the medical wing, Dr. Han was waiting, summoned by a single cryptic phone call. The examination was swift, professional, thorough. And then came the news that would change their lives forever. "Congratulations, Mrs. Doe," Dr. Han said with a gentle smile. "You are definitely pregnant, approximately 8 weeks along." Diana heard the words as if from a great distance. Pregnant, 8 weeks, a baby. She turned to look at Doha and found him staring at her with an expression of such profound joy that it took her breath away. Tears were streaming down his face, something she had never seen before, and his hands were shaking as he reached for her. "A baby," he whispered, his voice cracking. "Our baby." Then he did something completely unexpected. He dropped to his knees beside her examination chair, pressed his face against her stomach, and wept. Diana ran her fingers through his hair, tears streaming down her own face, as the magnitude of the moment washed over them both. They were going to be parents. The contract that had brought them together, the arrangement that was supposed to be temporary, had led them here, to this moment, to this miracle. And Diana knew, with absolute certainty, that this was just the beginning. The news of Diana's pregnancy spread through the Doe family like wildfire. Minju arrived at the penthouse the very next morning, having apparently broken several traffic laws to get there. She burst through the door with all the subtlety of a hurricane, her arms laden with bags from what appeared to be every baby store in the city. "Where is she? Where is my daughter-in-law? Where is the mother of my grandchild?" she demanded, her voice echoing through the marble foyer. Doha emerged from the bedroom, looking slightly rumpled and deeply amused. "Mother, it is 7 in the morning. Diana is resting." "Resting? Resting is for people who are not growing my grandchild." Minju dropped her bags and grabbed Doha's face in both hands, squishing his cheeks together. "My son, my cold, stone-faced son, you are going to be a father. I never thought I would see this day. Mother, please. Do not, Mother, please me. This is the happiest day of my life." She released his face and immediately began unpacking her bags, spreading baby clothes and toys across every available surface. "I have brought everything: clothes for the first year, educational toys, prenatal vitamins, 17 different types of organic baby food, and a book on Korean lullabies that Diana must memorize immediately. The baby is the size of a raspberry, Mother. It does not need 17 types of baby food. It will grow. Babies grow. That is what they do." Minju waved a tiny pair of socks at him. "Look at these. Are these not the most precious things you have ever seen? I am going to spoil this child absolutely rotten, and you cannot stop me." Diana appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a silk robe, her hair tousled from sleep. She looked exhausted but happy, a soft smile playing on her lips as she watched her mother-in-law's antics. "Good morning, Minju," she said. Minju spun around and immediately burst into tears. She crossed the room in 3 quick strides and pulled Diana into a fierce embrace. "My daughter," she sobbed. "My beautiful, wonderful daughter. You have given me everything. Everything." Diana hugged her back, feeling tears prick at her own eyes. "I did not do it alone." "No, of course not. My son contributed, minimally." Minju pulled back and wiped her eyes, then immediately began fussing over Diana. "You look pale. Are you eating enough? Are you sleeping enough? Doha, why does she look so tired? Are you keeping her up at night with your business calls? I will take away your phone." "I will do it." "Mother, do not test me." Seo-yoon arrived an hour later, carrying a large wooden box that he presented to Diana with great ceremony. "This was my wife's," he explained, opening the lid to reveal a stunning traditional hanbok in shades of ivory and gold. "She wore it when she was pregnant with Doha. It has been in our family for generations. We would be honored if you would wear it." Diana touched the delicate fabric, overwhelmed by the gesture. "It is beautiful. I would be honored." Seo-yoon smiled, his eyes crinkling with warmth. "You are part of our family now, Diana. Truly, not just in name, but in heart. This child you carry is a blessing to all of us." Even Haraboeji made an appearance, shuffling into the penthouse with his usual grumpy expression. He surveyed the chaos of baby supplies with evident disdain. "Too much stuff," he declared. "Babies do not need stuff. They need food and warmth and people who love them. Everything else is nonsense." Then he turned to Diana, and his expression softened almost imperceptibly. "You," he said, pointing a gnarled finger at her stomach. "You take care of yourself. Eat spicy food. It builds character. And do not let these fools overwhelm you with their fussing. A strong mother makes a strong child." He patted her arm awkwardly, then shuffled to the nearest armchair and demanded someone bring him tea and snacks. Diana looked around at her chaotic, overwhelming, wonderful family and felt a surge of love so intense it nearly brought her to her knees. This was what she had always wanted. This was what she had been searching for her entire life without knowing it. Not just a husband or a home, but a family. A place where she belonged. Doha appeared at her side and slipped his arm around her waist. "Are you all right?" he murmured in her ear. "I am perfect," she said, leaning into him. "Absolutely perfect." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "I love you. I love you too." The months that followed were a whirlwind of preparation and joy. Diana continued to work on Rebirth, though at a reduced pace. Doha had initially suggested she take a complete break, but Diana had firmly refused. "This company is part of who I am," she explained. "I will not abandon it just because I am pregnant. Women have been having babies and working for thousands of years. I can handle both." Doha had accepted her decision with grace, though he insisted on certain modifications. He hired an executive assistant to handle the more stressful aspects of her work. He ensured her laboratory was equipped with the best ventilation and safety features. And he made her promise to rest whenever she felt tired, no matter what deadline was looming. "Your health comes first," he said firmly. "Always. If I have to shut down the entire company to ensure you rest, I will do it." "You would not dare." "Try me." Diana believed him, which was why she made sure to pace herself carefully. The official launch of Ascension was scheduled for Diana's 6th month of pregnancy. By then, her bump was clearly visible, and she had never felt more beautiful. There was something about carrying life inside her that made her glow from within, a radiance that no amount of makeup could replicate. Doha was utterly besotted. He could not stop touching her, his hands constantly drifting to her stomach, marveling at the life growing beneath his palms. "I felt movement," he said one night, his eyes wide with wonder. "The baby moved," Diana laughed. "The baby has been moving for weeks. You are just finally able to feel it from the outside." It is incredible. He pressed his face against her belly, speaking directly to their child. Hello in there. This is your father. I want you to know that you are already the most loved baby in the entire world. Your mother is extraordinary, and I am going to spend my entire life making sure you both know how precious you are to me. Diana ran her fingers through his hair, tears streaming down her face. You are going to be an amazing father. I am going to try. He looked up at her, his expression serious. I had no role model for this, Diana. My father was distant. My grandfather was grumpy. I do not know how to be warm and open and present. But I want to learn. I want to be everything for this child that my own father was not for me. You already are, Diana assured him. The fact that you want to be better, that you are willing to try, that makes all the difference. He rose up and kissed her deeply, pouring all his love and fear and hope into the contact. Thank you, he whispered against her lips. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for giving me a family. Thank you for teaching me how to love. Thank you for saving me, Diana replied. Thank you for seeing me when no one else did. Thank you for believing in me when I could not believe in myself. They held each other for a long time. Two people who had found their way to each other through the most unlikely circumstances, now building a life together that neither had dared to dream of. The launch gala for Ascension was everything Diana had hoped for and more. The ballroom was transformed into a sensory paradise, every detail carefully curated to reflect the essence of the fragrance. Soft amber lighting cast warm shadows across the space. Arrangements of white roses and jasmine filled the air with delicate perfume. And at the center of it all, displayed on a pedestal of black marble, was the bottle of Ascension itself, a work of art in crystal and gold. Diana had designed the bottle herself, wanting it to reflect the journey that had brought her to this moment. The shape was reminiscent of a phoenix rising, its wings spread wide, its form elegant and powerful. The golden cap was engraved with a single word, rebirth. Guests filled the ballroom, drawn by the buzz surrounding the launch. Industry insiders, fashion icons, celebrity influencers, and serious investors mingled beneath crystal chandeliers, all eager to experience the fragrance that had been generating such extraordinary anticipation. Diana moved through the crowd in a stunning gown of deep purple silk that draped elegantly over her pregnant belly. She had never felt more powerful, more confident, more completely herself. And beside her, never more than a few steps away, was Doha. He was resplendent in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo, his presence commanding attention even in a room full of remarkable people. But his eyes were only for Diana, following her with an expression of such pride and love that it made her heart ache. You are magnificent, he murmured, pulling her aside for a private moment. I cannot stop looking at you. Flattery will get you everywhere, Diana teased. It is not flattery, it is fact. He placed his hand on her belly, feeling the baby kick against his palm. Both of you are magnificent. I am the luckiest man in the world. Diana leaned up and kissed him softly. I love you. I love you too. Now go. Conquer this room. Show them all what Diana Doe is capable of. She laughed at the use of her married name, still not entirely used to hearing it. Diana Doe. It still sounds strange. It sounds perfect to me. The evening progressed beautifully. Diana gave a speech that moved several guests to tears, speaking about her journey from despair to triumph, about the power of perseverance and the importance of believing in oneself. She did not mention the contract. She did not mention the arrangement that had brought her into Doha's life. Those details were private, precious, belonging only to them. What she did speak about was love. Ascension is more than a fragrance, she said, her voice carrying across the silent room. It is a declaration. It is proof that we can rise from our lowest moments, that we can transform our pain into purpose, that we can find beauty in the ashes of our former selves. She looked at Doha, who was watching her with tears glistening in his eyes. I created this perfume during the most transformative period of my life. I had lost everything I thought I wanted and found something I never knew I needed. I had been broken and rebuilt. I had learned that true strength is not about never falling. It is about rising every time you fall. She held up the bottle of ascension, letting the light catch the golden phoenix. This fragrance is for everyone who has ever felt lost, for everyone who has ever doubted their worth, for everyone who has ever been told they were not enough. Her voice strengthened. You are enough. You have always been enough, and your best days are not behind you. They are ahead, waiting for you to claim them. The applause was thunderous. Later that evening, after the guests had departed and the staff had begun the cleanup, Diana found Doha on the balcony overlooking the city. He was staring at the lights below, his expression contemplative. She walked up behind him and wrapped her arms around his waist, pressing her cheek against his back. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "You," he said simply. "The baby, our future." He turned in her arms and cupped her face in his hands. "I was thinking about how different my life would be if you had not agreed to that contract. If you had said no and walked away." "I almost did," Diana admitted. "I was terrified. I thought I was selling my soul. Instead, you found it." He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that she loved so much. "You found yourself. And you found me. I found everything." He kissed her then, slow and deep, with all the tenderness of a man who knew exactly how precious the moment was. When they finally broke apart, Diana took his hand and placed it on her belly. "Your son says hello," she said. Doha's eyes widened. "Son? Do you know? Did the doctor tell you?" Diana laughed. "I had an ultrasound this morning while you were in your meeting. I wanted to surprise you tonight." "A son?" His voice was barely a whisper. "We are having a son. We are having a son." Doha dropped to his knees right there on the balcony, pressing his face against her stomach, his shoulders shaking with emotion. "Hello, little one," he said, his voice cracking. "This is your father. I have so much to tell you, so much to teach you, so much love to give you." Diana stroked his hair, tears streaming down her own face. "I want to name him Gino," she said softly. "It means precious in Korean, because that is what he is to us, precious beyond measure." Doha looked up at her, his face wet with tears but radiant with joy. "Gino," he repeated. "Do Gino. It is perfect." He rose and pulled her into his arms, holding her as if he never wanted to let go. "Thank you," he whispered against her hair. "Thank you for everything, for the baby, for your love, for giving my life meaning." "Thank you for saving me," Diana replied, "for giving me a home, for teaching me that I deserve to be loved." They stood there for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms, watching the city lights glitter below them like a sea of stars. The contract that had brought them together was long forgotten, replaced by something infinitely more precious. A family. A future. A love that would last forever. 3 months later, Dojino entered the world with a healthy cry that echoed through the delivery room. He was perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, a full head of dark hair, and his mother's determined spirit. He opened his eyes and looked up at his parents with an expression of calm curiosity, as if he was already assessing his surroundings and finding them acceptable. Doha held his son for the first time with hands that trembled with emotion. Tears streamed down his face as he cradled the tiny bundle against his chest. "Hello, Gino," he whispered. "I am your father, and I promise you, I will spend every day of my life protecting you, loving you, and making sure you know how wanted you are." Diana watched them from her hospital bed, exhausted but radiant with joy. He looks like you, she said. He has your eyes. Doha looked up at her, his expression overflowing with love. He is going to be extraordinary, just like his mother. Minju burst into the room moments later, followed by Seo-yoon and a grumbling Haraboeji who complained loudly about hospital lighting while secretly wiping tears from his eyes. Let me see my grandson, Minju demanded, practically wrestling the baby from Doha's arms. She gazed down at Jino's face and immediately burst into tears. He is beautiful. He is perfect. He has the doe nose. Look at this nose. He also has Diana's cheekbones, Seo-yoon observed, peering over his wife's shoulder. Strong bones. Good bones. He needs more fat, Haraboeji declared, squinting at the baby. Too skinny. Babies should be fat. Feed him more. He was born 20 minutes ago, grandfather, Doha said dryly. Then start feeding him now. No time to waste. The room dissolved into chaotic, loving bickering, and Diana laughed until she cried. This was her family, her wonderful, impossible, perfect family. She looked at Doha, who had reclaimed their son and was showing him off to his grandfather with barely concealed pride. As if sensing her gaze, he looked up and met her eyes. The love in his expression took her breath away. Thank you, he mouthed silently. She smiled and mouthed back. Forever. 6 months later, Diana stood on the same balcony where Doha had proposed renegotiating their contract, watching the sun set over the city. Gino was asleep in his nursery, monitored by the most advanced baby surveillance system money could buy, and Doha was beside her, as always, his arm wrapped around her waist. What are you thinking about? He asked. The beginning, she said. That night at the gallery when Trevor tried to humiliate me, when you walked in and changed everything. I did not change anything. I simply made visible what was already true. He pressed a kiss to her temple. You were always extraordinary, Diana. You just needed someone to remind you. You did more than remind me. You saved me. We saved each other. He turned her to face him, his expression serious. I was a shell before you, Diana. I had power and money and influence, but I had nothing that mattered. You taught me how to feel, how to love, how to be human. Diana reached up and touched his face. I love you, Dodoha. I love you too, Diana Do. He smiled, that rare, brilliant smile that still made her heart race. More than I ever knew was possible. He kissed her then, slow and deep, with all the passion and tenderness of a man who had finally found his home. When they broke apart, Diana looked out at the city lights and thought about how far she had come. From the depths of despair after Trevor, through a contract marriage she never expected to survive, to this moment of perfect happiness. She had built a company from nothing. She had found a family that loved her unconditionally. She had discovered a love that transcended all expectations. She had been reborn. And as she stood there with her husband's arms around her and her son sleeping peacefully nearby, Diana knew that this was just the beginning. The best was yet to come. Thank you for staying with me until the very end of this incredible journey. If this story touched your heart, wait until you see what's coming next. It's even more powerful and inspiring than you can imagine. So don't go anywhere. Click on that video showing on your screen right now to dive into another amazing story that will absolutely blow your mind. Trust me, you won't regret it.